Hi there, friends of good champion design. Today we will design our first group of female champion faces. So buckle up and we will jump right in. After designing my 2 Chads and an evil boy, I considered tackling a topic that starts being discussed every few patches. League of Legends way of painting female characters. To illustrate my point, this picture says it all. Every champion shares the button-shaped nose and sharp facial features. I feel like I just stumbled into an anime. Additionally, League of Legends is as consistent with faces as a German student home internet connection. Not to say that splash arts are not well done or beautiful, but in the past few years I was presented with alternate universe splash arts which really confused me, to the point of having to check for weapons, accessoires or even names to guess who it is. That is why we are trying to figure out how to elevate champion faces in a way that differentiates them clearly enough from each other. The first and probably hardest region to tackle is Ionia. The facial differences are not as clear to me than different European faces, but really taking the time with this, I think that I captured a lot of different directions. We will start with Akali. Akali has a well-designed example of a character's face. Over most of her skins, she stays consistent. The primary shape is a triangle shape. In contrast to many characters, her facial silhouette is rather slim and sharp. Her eyes are very typical for every League character, that's why I will make them a little smaller and sharper than her usual appearance. The reason for her consistent design is probably that she's very much fitting into an existing archetype. Still, there have to be some characters who hit that spot, and I think Akali is the right one for this. The only thing I added was a small scar on top of her eyebrow. On the one hand, it looks a bit like something a badass teenager would do to style herself in an edgy way, and on the other hand, I don't believe that someone as impulsive as her has never taken a few hits to the body. The next character is Ahri, and she was probably next to Xayah the hardest character to design. Ahri is in so much media that it's really hard to pinpoint her style / facial features. Ahri is supposed to be absolutely beautiful. Even though she is a fox with tire, she has no fur and she has no feline nose. Even though it would be interesting to give her this look during her ultimate, I suppose that more people would be annoyed if a more animalistic approach would be taken. And that's fine, but we are put in a difficult position. Do we try to go for a fox-inspired face, or do we try to keep the human aspects? In all honesty, I would have preferred to simply give her a face inspired by some beautiful Korean women, but if going forward I gave her a round nose, this would most likely clash with other Ionian designs later on. And this is why I went with a more pointed nose. To justify this decision, if any champions have to have this nose, Ahri with her fox background has a valid reason to have such a nose. Next up comes Irelia. Her Awakened design is probably one of the best designs, which clearly places her in this region. Irelia has a rounder face, but her sharp eyes and cheeks give her a recognizable appearance. And I love that this design from League of Legends could be translated without much work into an adaptation like Arcane. The one problem with Irelia is that if you give her extensive makeup, which changes her facial structure, and add different hairstyles, she can easily be mistaken for someone else. The other idea I had with improving her design would be a lot of small scars over her face, to illustrate the moment of her family crest shattering, and cutting her perfect and clean skin to mirror the change. Karma is difficult, because a lot of her features are hidden under dark makeup. So I went through a lot of Karma concepts just to see that she suffers from a similar symptom than Ahri. Her nose and her facial features are so very different in most designs. And then I found a concept of Karma which showed her with a small bump in her nose. And from every Karma design, this had the most beauty and unique flavor to me. That's why I finished her design like this. Sharp features overall, but wider cheekbones and jaw. This sets her apart and makes her a bit more mature. I know that Karma is actually a young woman who has to take in all the responsibilities of her reincarnation and the spirit of Ionia, but all this seems like something that would make her grow up a lot quicker and should be reflected in her design. So, Lillia. I don't know what I can tell you about her. Lillia was an absolutely missed opportunity. the countless people who already redesigned her face in an attempt to show how a more animalistic face design would have made her look like a way more interesting champion is baffling. Even going forward, her Shanghai Scrolls skin makes her look so much more interesting, and in the same way more beautiful, because in a different way than a lot of people think, beauty is not one strategy that you can repeat over and over, but adding in some note of unexpected to it. That's why Arcane is more beautiful than Disney. It's not 100% perfect, it adds in a big splash of unexpected, of style, of something different, and that's why eventually it has a lot more of its own beauty than all of this. Continuing with Syndra, how she had to look was relatively clear to me. I am a big fan of Avatar, The Last Airbender, and Syndra always gave me some strong Azula vibes. Immensely powerful, controlled by her fate and her people around her, and when she's unleashed, absolute, untouched power. It's a bit sad that her story is just that and nothing more, but that's not the problem today. What I wanted to illustrate is that for Syndra I took inspiration of some Chinese actresses. If there is someone close to the archetype of the evil, beautiful sorceress, it's probably Syndra, and I'm fine with that. Lastly, we have Xayah, and her face was equally difficult to Ahri's face. If you check the character design, it is an absolute inconsistent mesh of different ideas. But it actually had a really good point in the beginning. While Rakan is the absolute charmer, Xayah is less extravagant and out there. That is why I gave her a round face and a flatter nose than, for example, Ahri. I wanted to give her a resting bitch face, and the one eye that you can see basically says, "I will kill you," and I mean it. If this would be real, the biggest problem is that makeup and hairstyle can change a lot about the character's appearance. And looking at skins, the implication would be that there had to be a facial sheet that gives every artist a clear picture of the defining features. Funny enough, this is actually something that is common in animation. Avatar, for example, had these elaborate sheets of characters that would define their characteristics. Moving forward, the faces will definitely vary a lot more. In regions like Noxus and Freljord, we can play a lot more with noses and scars and generally have a good time. In the next video, we will probably check out another champion rework or new champion. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This was Arthis, and I see you in the next video.